A contract is a legally binding agreement between two or more parties. However, not all contracts are enforceable in court. A contract can be deemed invalid or void for several reasons, which generally relate to issues with the formation, content, or execution of the agreement. 1. Lack of capacity, RA. Minors, contractual capacity. Generally, minors, individuals under the age of 18, lack the legal capacity to enter into binding contracts. There are some exceptions, such as contracts for necessities, food, shelter, clothing, or certain employment agreements. Voidable contracts. Contracts entered into by minors are typically voidable at the minor's discretion, meaning they can choose to honor or void the agreement. B. Mental incapacity. Mental competence. A party must have the mental capacity to understand the nature and consequences of the contract. If a party lacks this competence due to mental illness, intoxication, or cognitive impairment, the contract may be invalid. Legal determination. Courts can determine lack of capacity through medical evidence or legal rulings. 2. Lack of consent, A. Duress forced agreement. A contract obtained through duress, where one party is forced or threatened into entering the agreement, is not valid. Examples: threats of physical harm, economic pressure, or coercive tactics. B. Undue influence. Improper influence. Contracts formed under undue influence, where one party exerts excessive pressure or influence over another, are invalid. Examples: situations involving relationships of trust, such as caregiver-patient or attorney-client, where one party manipulates the other into signing. C. Misrepresentation. False statements. If one party enters the contract based on false statements or misrepresentations made by the other party, the contract may be invalid. Types: fraudulent misrepresentation, intentional deception, negligent misrepresentation, false statements made carelessly, innocent misrepresentation, false statements made without knowledge of their inaccuracy. D. Mistake, mutual mistake. A contract is invalid if both parties share a mutual mistake about a material fact essential to the agreement. Unilateral mistake. In some cases, if one party is mistaken about a material fact and the other party knew or should have known about the mistake, the contract may be voidable. 3. Lack of consideration, A. No exchange of value. Essence of consideration. For a contract to be valid, there must be consideration, meaning each party must provide something of value in exchange for something else of value. Absence of consideration. A contract without consideration, where one party receives something without providing anything in return, is generally invalid. 4. Illegality. A. Illegal subject matter. Illegal activities. Contracts that involve illegal activities or violate public policy are void and unenforceable. Examples: contracts for illegal drug sales, unlicensed gambling operations, or employment agreements that contravene labor laws. B. Contravention of statutory law. Statutory violations. Contracts that violate specific statutory requirements or prohibitions are void. Examples: employment contracts that impose working conditions inconsistent with labor regulations, or agreements that restrict competition beyond legal limits. 5. Lack of certainty and clarity. Ambiguity. Unclear terms. A contract with vague or unclear terms that make it impossible to determine the obligations and rights of the parties may be deemed invalid. Need for specificity. Essential terms, such as price, subject matter, and delivery dates, must be clearly defined. 6. Formal requirements, not met, A. Statute of frauds. Written requirement. Certain types of contracts must be in writing to be enforceable, such as contracts for the sale of real estate, contracts that cannot be performed within 1 year, and guarantee agreements. Signature and documentation. Failure to comply with the statute of frauds can render the contract void. 7. Public policy, AA, against public interest. Public policy considerations. Contracts that are contrary to public policy or societal norms may be declared invalid. Examples: agreements that restrict trade unduly, infringe on personal freedoms, or promote unconscionable practices.